my friends, today we're making potato and cheese pierogi. Welcome to Polish Kitchen. Here I teach you how to make Polish food. If you like my channel, please subscribe. Like my page, I'm on Facebook, just search for Polish Kitchen. And on Instagram, also search for Polish Kitchen. Today we're making Polish pierogi. You have voted and you have chosen our first pierogi filling for a video. Today we're making potato and farmer's cheese pierogi. So we're going to start by making our dough. My recipe calls for 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and I have 1 egg and 1 1/4 cup of warm water. So I have 3 cups of flour in here with a teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to start adding my ingredients, and I'm using my KitchenAid because I love it, and my dough always turns out. So I'm using the hook attachment. And I'm going to just lower it down, and I'm going to go in with the egg and start turning. And come on, let's see it. I'm just going to slowly start adding water, but this recipe has been measured and has been made many times, and it always turns out for me. I don't add any sour cream, I don't add any butter. This is a really simple dough. My family has made this dough for years and years, and I don't mess with it. I follow the ingredients amount, and there's just no way that it's not going to turn out. These ingredients are going to combine pretty quickly. We don't have to knead for a very long time. As soon as they combine to form a dough, we'll pull it out and we will transfer it to a pastry board, and then we'll start rolling out. My water has been boiled and it's cooled mostly, but it's still a little warm, and it helps the gluten in the flour to release. So I have about probably 1/8 of a cup left here. And I see that my dough is already wet, so I'm not going to add the rest of this. I'm actually going to add just a tiny bit of flour, just so the hook can grab the dough a little bit better. But this is as much as we want to go. So I'm just going to turn this off now, and I'm going to pull out my pastry board, and we'll continue with this. I am all set up for rolling this baby out. I'm just going to pop it out. Give it plenty of flour onto your surface. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes of kneading just to incorporate the ingredients, but they're pretty good. The dough is nice and soft. It'll be easy to cut out and fill with our filling. So like I said, we're doing potato and farmer's cheese filling today. And in Poland, we call them PIEROGI RUSKIE. And they are not filled with cheddar, like some people may think. When we say potato and cheese, we normally mean farmer's cheese, the white cheese made from buttermilk, or actually it's made from milk first souring by just being out, and then heating that milk after a few days is what makes the milk curdle. Then we strain it and make it into farmer's cheese, and I will show you it in a minute once we are ready to make the filling. So my dough is ready. I'm going to take a look at it. It's pretty smooth and soft. I will stop now with it. So I'm just going to set it aside, and we'll concentrate on the filling, and I will wrap it. I'm preparing my onion, which we're going to need for our filling. I have 1 medium onion. This is half of it. and I'm dicing it for the butter that's heating here in my pan. And we're gonna saute it until it is nice and golden brown. And this will add flavor to our potatoes and to our cheese that will make for a filling. You're going to saute your onions for about 3 to 5 minutes in about 2 tablespoons of butter, and this is where we want them. They're nice and brown on the edges, but they still have a little bit of texture to them, so we're going to turn this off and let them cool for a couple minutes before we proceed. My onions are cooling nicely here. I'm going to give them a couple more minutes. I don't want them super hot, but we'll prepare the rest of our ingredients. So here it is, the infamous farmer's cheese. I know it's kind of hard to get in America. I ended up always making my own when I lived there. Like I mentioned before, in the old times in Poland, this cheese was very easily made because the milk just came straight from the cow into the house. It would sit in a warm spot in the crock pot, not in a crock pot, in a crock dish, I guess, for a few days until the milk soured, and then it was heated up and strained to create this curd-like look. And farmer's cheese is not sour as in vinegar sour. We don't add vinegar to make it. It's kind of tangy, more tangy sour. And I do have a recipe on my website for how to make it at home. And I will post the link below in the description. So if you want to go ahead and click on it and see how I make it, go ahead. And in the future, I hope to make a farmer's cheese video. So here I have a pound of cheese. And in America, you will find it in the specialty cheese section of your grocery store. I know some organic food stores carry it, some of the larger ones too, the ones that have a very big cheese section. So look there, and it normally comes in a box, and it comes in 1 pound increments. So we're using 1 pound today. And if you can't find it, you can substitute it with cottage cheese. I would just strain it and add a little bit of Greek yogurt to it, because Greek yogurt has that kind of tangy taste to it, and that's what you want in it. And I have everything is written down in my recipe, and the link is also down below in the description. So I'm just crumbling my cheese a little bit into smaller pieces, so when we add it to our potatoes, we don't have to mush it too much. And these pierogi ruskie, the potato and farmer's cheese pierogi, is a super popular dish in Poland and apparently across the world. We're famous for our pierogi, and if there was one dish that Poland was famous for, obviously this is it. In my home growing up, when it was mid 80s to late 80s and 90s, we wouldn't make pierogi at home very often. It was normally a dish that was reserved for Christmas, and then we would make the sauerkraut and mushroom pierogi. Those are my favorite. But the rest of them we would only make maybe once or twice a year. Not until later, in Poland I'm talking, probably mid 2000s and later, Poland came up with the idea that everybody loves pierogi, and why don't we eat them more? And a bunch of pierogi shops started opening up everywhere, and then you don't have to spend all this time making them. You can just pop in the shop, buy one of each flavors, and enjoy them year round. So now every restaurant in Poland serves these, and you can't go to a Polish restaurant and not eat any. So you'll find them everywhere if you're visiting. So my cheese is pretty crumbly, and I'm gonna mix it with the taters now. So this is 2 pounds of potatoes. In America, I always use the large russet potatoes because they're nice and crumbly. These that I use today are a little bit more waxy, but you don't have to worry about that too much. You can use any type of potato. And it's 2 pounds of boiled potato, or 2 pounds of raw potatoes that I've peeled and boiled in slightly salted water, and then I just hand mash them. You can very well use leftover potatoes if you have some after a large meal or something. So this is about 3 cups of mashed potatoes. And they're gonna go into my bowl. And I'm going to just separate it a little bit. And then cheese goes in. Look, we have a lot of cheese, probably half and half. We want them to be we want them to come through very, very much. So I'm just gonna wash my hands real quick, and I'll come back and mix this. So to our potatoes and farmer's cheese, I'm gonna add our onion that was sauteing and 2 tablespoons of butter. Nice and golden, sweet onion. We're creating layers of flavor in our food. And I'm gonna add a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. That's probably good. Now we'll give this a stir, and our filling is done. See how rich it is. We have lots of cheese in it, just a little bit of potatoes. In volume, it looks like there's less potatoes, but I promise there was 2 pounds in it. And once these flavors come together, I can smell what ruskie pierogi taste like. It's kind of weird. I'll just give this a good stir. We'll give it a taste, and we'll start rolling our dough. I'm gonna taste our filling. Well, it's pretty perfect. Doesn't need any more salt, or just good. So now it's probably a good time to start your water. So as soon as our pierogi are formed, we can pop a few into the boiling water, or you can go through all of your dough, make all of your pierogi, and then boil them all at once. So let's roll out our dough. Mine was sitting in plastic bags, so it's not drying out. And I shall divide it into probably 3. I have a little extra flour here. I have my rolling pin. I need a knife to cut this. Or I need my cutter yet. I need my pierogi cutter. Hang on. Will you reach in there?
Okay.
This is my pierogi cutter. It's got a nice wooden handle and kind of a zigzaggy edge. It's 3-inch wide. If you don't have one, you can just use a glass that's about 3 inches in diameter. I also posted a link below this video in the description if you wanted to get one of those. They're very handy. So we're gonna roll this one out. Give it plenty of flour so we're not sticking. And we're gonna roll this out to about 1/8 of an inch thickness or thinness. sure to keep your surface floured. And over here too. Don't rush, take your time. This is a family event. Get your kids, get your sisters, get your brothers involved. Gather around, make triple batch of dough, and have a family event. Okay, so I think I'm there with the thickness. Maybe a little bit at the edge here. And I'm gonna cut out circles. I also, a while ago, made a video about how to seal pierogi 3 ways. I will repeat the 3 different versions today, but you can go to, if you're in my channel, you'll see it. You can make a production line at home, one's cutting, the other one's filling, and you'll have this done in no time. In my home, I started making pierogi with my family. Pretty young. I'm gonna say about 6. And my daughter is 14 now. And whether she likes it or not, she's helping. So I have these cut out. I'm gonna put this dough away so it's not drying for me. And let's fill a few. I like to use just plain old teaspoon, and we'll take out a circle.
Want some water?
No. And I just like to flatten it out just a little bit. And when you have them rolled out like this, one of the sides normally is a little bit more floury than the other. Fill the one that's more sticky. That will help us with the edges. And I'm gonna take, you'll have to judge this and see how good you're at filling and how much filling you want to do. Start with a little bit. This is probably just a little bit not enough, so I'm going to add a little bit more. And form your dough in the middle, and then the 2 edges will come together like this, and we'll seal them first like this. And make sure they're all together. And here is my pinching methods. We'll do, this is the one that I use normally because it's the easiest for me. So you're using these 2 fingers, and this guy's only a helper. So these go under, this goes guy on top. And we pinch, and again, this one pushes in between and pinch. In between and pinch. And continue all around. And here's a beautiful pierogi. And I have a tray over here that I'm gonna store them on. Just a little bit of flour. And on they go. And we'll do this one we call forking method. We'll flatten our circle. Do as much filling as you can fit without it breaking open. And we shall pinch, pinch, pinch. I've probably made thousands of these over my young years. You can leave this like this too. They look pretty like this also, especially with the zigzaggy edge. They're just fine. They're pretty. They taste wonderful. Don't need to go any further. But if you do the forking method, you know for sure they're sticking together. Just make sure there's some flour on the bottom. And then you're just gonna go around and push it down. Pretty. This also works if you're making 2 different fillings and you want to differentiate your fillings from one from the other. You can use the forking method for the cheese. You can use the pinching method for meat. Then you don't have to worry about guessing, oh, this one looks a little lighter, so it's probably cheese. This one's a little darker, so it's probably meat. Or you can always do the forking with the cheese, so you always know that that's your pierogi and cheese filling. And you can always do the pinching with the meat, and then no guessing. And we are gonna do our most fancy one now. This one I don't do super often, but it's the one that's the prettiest. Let's see if I can do it. So you're gonna start from the tip, and you're gonna fold the tip in, and you're gonna continue around. And just keep folding the tip in. If you're, by the time I'm babcia, by the time I'm grandma, I will be super fast at this. I know ladies who are really fast with it. I'm okay with it, but still have years to practice. And this is our, what are we calling it? Fancy schmancy method. And you continue until you fill all of your circles, and then we're gonna go to boiling. And then most of the time you make this is probably half a batch that I normally make. I would normally make a batch of about 6 cups of flour, just because they're a little bit time consuming to make, and I like to have some stored in the freezer, so when I'm short on time or want to just pull them out of the freezer and cook, then I don't have to go through the whole process again. So I'm gonna tell you how to freeze them now and how to unfreeze them. So once we have all of our pierogi stuffed, and we are stuffed with them, we don't want to eat them anymore, we will put them on a tray. And if you have a large freezer, you have an advantage over me because my freezer is really small. So I normally take a 9-inch pan, a metal one. Once pierogi are cooked and cooled, I never freeze raw pierogi, just because that's not how you do it. Once they're boiled and cooled, I will put a layer on the bottom of my 9-inch pan, a layer of pierogi. Then I will cover it with a layer of wax paper, and then I'll keep stacking. And stack your pierogi in a single layer, each layer single layer, so they're not sticking together. And just continue until your 9-inch pan is full, and then you can get another 9-inch pan, and so on, so on. And you shove it in the freezer, give it a night to freeze completely, and then you take it out the next day and put it in a zip top bag. Put a date on your bag so you know how long they're sitting in there, and just store them in your freezer. And then when you're hungry, you can just pull them out and put some in a pan and get them cooked up. And once we're done with this portion, I'll show you how to do that. So stick around. When you're ready to boil your pierogi, we're gonna bring some water to a boil. I have it salted, about 1 tablespoon of salt, and I'm gonna add a splash of oil just so they don't stick together. And we're gonna drop our pierogi in. So once the water boils, turn it down. I'm gonna turn it down to 3 out of 9. And as soon as I put them in, the boil is gonna come down a little bit. So I'm just dropping them in, and as I do, I kind of go where the oil is so they get a little tiny coat. And we're gonna do this in batches, but I only have this one batch here. I'm gonna put batch 30, 15, 6, 8 in. And at this point, they're all the way on the bottom. So what I do is I kind of swirl the water around so they don't stick to the bottom and they don't stick together. And they're gonna hang out here until they float to the top, and then for another couple minutes, 2 to 3. Depending on how thick your dough is. Mine wasn't very thick, so I'm gonna go about 2 minutes. But they're just hanging out here, and we're gonna watch them We don't want the water to be rapidly boiling with a bunch of bubbles. We just kind of want it simmering. Take a look how my bubbles are just slightly coming from the bottom. This is the perfect spot for them. They like that. So we'll just hang out here and wait for them to boil. And in the meantime, we're gonna answer some questions that you had about making pierogi. So Mark, take it away.
All right, from Robert Matetsky, adding a little vanilla extract to farmer's cheese. Also, egg white to seal the edges, yes or no? Boil before freezing?
So adding vanilla to farmer's cheese, definitely not. When you're making your own farmer's cheese, it's just milk and buttermilk. Nothing, no vinegar, nothing fancy. It has to, bacteria has to do its thing to sour the milk, and it will give it flavor just from its existence. We don't want to mess with the perfection. What was other than seal?
So basically, Robert, if you want to, go ahead, but it's not normal for Poland. Do you use an egg white to seal the edges of the pierogi?
I don't need egg white. I use just a little bit of water to activate the flour, and it'll seal the edges. No egg white.
And would you boil these before freezing or freeze them raw?
Definitely boil before freezing. Boil, lay them out on a nice big tray so they're not touching, and let them cool completely.
Okay, so next question from Veronica Everson. How long do you cook frozen pierogi?
We are gonna get to that question right after we are done boiling. I have some in my freezer. I'll pull them out and I'll show you how to thaw them. So stick around.
All right, and the last one, I apologize if I screw your name up royally. Lamar or Limar Weber. Is it best to freeze cheese filling or make the pierogi then freeze the whole product? Raw or boiled freezing?
So you could do either way. You can freeze farmer's cheese. I have done that before. It does do a number on the texture of the cheese. It makes it a little bit more grainy. But if you're using it for the filling, it doesn't really matter because it's going to get mixed in with potatoes and it won't matter. Or you can freeze after you've made your pierogi, which will cut down on your then eating time. Or prep time, I guess, before eating. So you can do either way. And then what's the second part of the question?
Second part was, do you freeze them raw or boiled, which you already covered?
Yes, okay, yes, definitely freeze boiled. All right, so our pierogi are to the top. I'm not messing with the heat setting. I'm just letting them hang out at the top. They're just dancing around, being friends. And from that time, about a couple minutes, and they're done. All right, it's been 2 minutes. I'm gonna pull these guys out. And if you were at a Polish restaurant in Poland, pierogi will be served straight out of water, unless you request them to be pan fried. If you say nothing, if you just order of pierogi, they will come boiled with some stuff on the top. So it could be onions, or it could be onions with bacon sauteed together to create this gorgeous, glistening addition to your diet. I'm just gonna serve them from water, but if you'd like, they could go straight from water bath onto a butter bath and get a little flavor on them. But I'm just gonna do this because I'm sticking to Polish traditions and going old school. There we go. And let me turn this off. I'm gonna put a couple on my plate and we'll do the testing. 4. And I have a mixture, or not a mixture, I just have an onion sauteed here in butter. Again, you can do bacon bits and onion also. It's delicious. This is how you're gonna see them at any Polish restaurant in Poland. I'm so excited! Hot. Check it out. You can see a little bit of onion on the inside. You can see the nice white cheese and the potatoes. And they're super hot and I'm scared. You want some?
Mm-hmm.
Stupid question.
Is the Pope Catholic?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hot.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
I have these frozen pierogi that I'm gonna show you how to prepare from frozen to serving. So just heat up your pan, put a little bit of water at the bottom, probably 1/4 cup, not more. And then we're gonna do probably a good tablespoon of butter. And then onto that, you're gonna put your pierogi, however many you can fit on there. Oh, it's broken. I'll just do all of them. And they're frozen solid. You're gonna cover them. And the steam from the water is gonna thaw the dough and kind of heat through the pierogi. And you wanna let them hang out here steaming until that happens. You can check them, and when the dough around the edges is soft, you can go ahead and remove the cover, and then we'll get to sauteing. So I'll see you back in a couple minutes. It's only been about a couple to 3 minutes, and my edges are soft. So I'm gonna uncover, take the lid off, and as you can see, there's a little bit of moisture still in here, and we're gonna finish them off by just leaving them in the pan, and the water will evaporate, but the butter will stay, and it will prevent the butter will prevent the pierogi from sticking to the bottom, and also they will help us saute the dough a little bit. So I'm going to turn this down a little bit now so it's not burning. And the middle of the dumpling may still be a little bit frozen, but by the time we saute this for another 3 minutes or so, they should be warm on the inside and nice and crispy on the outside. Just move them around a little bit so they're not sticking. And the water is gone, and we're starting to brown the dough a little bit. I pulled these out of the freezer, and I believe these are meat, but I can't tell other than just guessing. I'm pretty sure these are meat, and I think I put some cranberries in the dough too. We will cover meat pierogi in a few weeks. And now they'll saute on medium heat until you like how they look. And by the time that happens, they'll be nice and warm on the inside, and you can serve them also with sauteed onions or bacon bits and onions. It's been another 3 minutes or so, and these guys are done. Take a look. They're nice and golden brown on the outside. The dough is nice and soft. You can serve them right away. Put some onions on them or some bacon bits, and you're good to go. Okay, my turn. Hello, my friend.
That's carbtastic.
The cheese is a little tangy, and it's really soft, filling. And the onion on top, it just adds a little bit of sweetness, and you can taste the pepper, and they're just salty enough. Don't forget salt, don't skimp on it. Salt equals flavor. Make them from home. Give them to your kid, they'll love you. Mom, I love you. Grandma, I love you. These are so good. Smacznego.